I don't think I'll ever go home again.
I think it was a hit, don't you, darling?
Oh, yes, a triumph.
Good morning, Jacob. How are you?
Morning. I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Very well, thank you. I mean, Saltburn has been described in so many different ways. You know, some people have described it as wicked and lascivious, and my favorite, sweaty. And I think that's partly because it's summer. But how would you describe it in 3 words?
Um, that's three pretty great words. Uh, Maybe wild, um, gorgeous, and fun.
Yeah, I think it is so wildly entertaining. Like every single scene is just a massive swing. And both times I watched Saltburn was in a theater with the crowd, and there were so many visceral reactions to certain scenes. And we've had this question from a lot of the press in the room who want to know, like what are some of the most extreme reactions you've heard about in reaction to, for example, the bathtub scene or the gravesite scene?
I haven't really heard too many because I try to hide away from it. But I went to a screening of the picture in Brisbane when it sort of first played, and it was unbelievable because everybody was engaged and sort of gasping at the screen and yelling at the screen and everything like that. And I haven't been in a movie like that in a really, really long time. So I haven't heard any of the really. I mean, I hope there's no terrible stories, but yeah.
I think it's mostly being like, they did what? But do you remember your own reactions when you finally got the script and you read those scenes?
I was just really excited when I read that scene because you don't really see things like that in sort of mainstream movies. I don't think a lot of the time. So it's just great that everyone was allowed to kind of push those boundaries and expose people like that, I think.
Definitely love a crowd reaction. I mean, you previously said in an interview that when you first met Emerald to talk about the project, she was, super vague. She couldn't really say anything about it, but that you knew straight away that you wanted to work with her, even though you didn't know what the project really was. How did you know that this was something you wanted to be involved with?
I mean, Em's a filmmaker through and through, and I think that shows in her first film. And you also know it immediately when she starts speaking. So I just knew, whatever it was something that I wanted to go down that road with her on. I'd go down that road with her on anything. And you kind of get that as soon as you hear her speak.
Did she signal to you at all what kind of the character would be in that first meeting?
I think she just kind of alluded to everybody being very human in the worst and best ways possible.
That's a really intriguing premise. I mean, Emerald has also kind of given the world some movies or TV shows or books that she thought would be primers to Saltburn. One of them was Cruel Intentions, my personal problematic fave. What did she give you to kind of watch or read, and what did you then discover through your own prep?
Um, I think it was Brideshead Revisited was the first one, and then The Go-Between by LP Hartley was on there as well. And there was a bunch of other things, but I mean, time is stretching now, and I think my brain's getting a little slow on it all. But there was movies as well, and a lot of music. There was a lot of musical cues and references and things like that. And then it kind of just unraveled itself as I went through that world, and then I went and lived in Chelsea for 4 weeks before we filmed, and kind of had a look around and walked around and settled into the whole thing. So it kind of just revealed itself as the process went along.
Did those 4 weeks in Chelsea give you a sense of that, upper class of English society?
Yeah, for sure, to a degree. Yeah.
Excellent. So I think, with acting, and everyone's got their own process, of course, but sometimes if you can try and relate to a character, you're trying to find a thread that can connect with them to help you find their humanity, because sometimes their behavior to audiences are inexplicable, but if you're playing the character, you kind of need to know where they're coming from. What do you think is the thread that connects you to Felix?
Good question. I mean, I'm not too sure. I went to all boys private school, so maybe there's something in that ties the two together. I'm sure I've seen a few Felixes in my time and Olivers.
And were there a few specific Felixes that you based a little bit of Felix on, someone that you have met in your life?
No.
I'm sure the people in your life will be relieved to hear that. Um, I mean, obviously, stating the obvious, you're very tall. Barry Keoghan is less tall. How did you sort of use your physicality to be this object of desire for Barry's character? Like in infusing Felix this sort of allure to Oliver?
I never tried to lure Oliver or anything like that at all. I just tried to find like a looseness in Felix, and um, there is a kind of relaxed nature to people that don't have to work for anything, because everything comes to them. So I think I just tried to find that in my physicality, maybe, but it was a lot less kind of cerebral than that, the whole sort of process, you know.
Is it easy enough to sort of shake off that tension that, we might naturally carry to really be in the mindset of a character who does have everything come easily to him?
It was it was quite wonderful because in my life so far, I've played pretty stiff characters. So it was nice to be able to, because I'm not very stiff myself. I'm quite loose and floppy. So it was nice to be able to play that part of myself, which comes a little easier than standing rigid in a high school hallway,
Yeah, he certainly definitely has just that the sense that nothing's ever been too difficult, that, everything's there's nothing to really stress out about, really, even exams.
Yeah, why would you?
Totally. So I was watching the interview that you did with Coleman Domingo in Variety, and you were talking about how much, when you've, say, been in a stage performance, that you are trying to lose yourself, lose Jacob Elordi in a performance, and that you're trying to get back to that. Do you think you did that with Saltburn, that you managed to lose yourself?
I hope so. I don't find myself anything like Felix, so fingers crossed that worked.
And I mean, what sort of rituals do you kind of have to do to get yourself into that mindset?
I mean, I'm not sure. I think the process sort of changes every single time, depending on the picture. Yeah.
Excellent. So much of the movie, I think, comes from Oliver's perspective, and he proves himself to be quite an unreliable narrator until the very end. And in that way, do you think the audience ever got to know or even see the real Felix?
Yeah, I think so. I do.
Do you think there are particular scenes or moments that, we should look out for, or when we're rewatching it, be like, that's the Felix as he really is, and not just through Oliver's eyes?
I think he's kind of genuine the whole time, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I also read that you keep notebooks for each of your characters. Is that like a diary or more like a dossier?
It's more just somewhere to keep all my thoughts together. Otherwise, they might run wild and disappear, and then I won't be able to get them back.
Well, what was in the notebook for Felix? Maybe a song that really kind of grounded the character for you, or even a painting?
I can't really remember, to be honest with you.
Okay. But the other, obviously there are many things that inform a character, and this was actually a question that a lot of people did ask, is that, whether or not there was a piece of wardrobe or certain style that helped you connect with portraying that character in that certain time as well, because it's 2007, 2008, such a specific moment in culture. And we obviously saw all the Harry Potter books and Superbad and The Ring, but, fashion was such a big part of setting that world as well. Was there something in that you really connected with?
Yeah, I had bought this old watch from like 1952, I think, before we started, but I sort of wore the whole time and had this whole idea that it had been from his grandfather or something like that. So I had this little sort of gold watch. And then with that was these Livestrong bracelets and these kind of bracelets from his last trip to Indonesia or something, you know. So all of those, every time I put them on, that was kind of the last piece of the puzzle before I, went in there and did the thing, I guess.
Did you create that backstory about like where he might have gone on a gap year or, where he might have traveled as a child?
Emerald helped with all of that stuff. Very, very much so. She's got a wicked imagination.
And I mean, when you're working on a project, do you prefer to sort of have the filmmaker, the writers kind of talk you through the backstory, or do you actually prefer to create most of that yourself?
I'm pretty open to everything, you know. I definitely want to be in service to filmmakers, always, and so I guess it's maybe a combination of both.
Yeah. I mean, before you worked with Emerald, was she on your list?
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, I think any director's kind of I love making movies. Yeah,
And do you share that list with people, or do you just like, this is my secret wish list, and I'm just gonna like secretly tick off some of those boxes?
and just keep it in a little box somewhere.
That's brilliant. Um, so when I saw the movie the first time, right at the end, that somebody had said to me, "Did you see this moment?" And I don't necessarily want to say what it was, and I hadn't seen it. So when I saw it the second time, it was just only a few days later. I thought, okay, I'm really gonna have to look out for this. And there are all these sort of hidden details and Easter eggs in the film. And we've got one of our press here who really want to know what was your favorite Easter egg in the movie?
Um, Pay close attention to Shelley's doppelganger in that scene there.
Yeah, that was the one. That was the one that I missed the first time. So glad I had another opportunity to see it.
And
Um,
if there's more, then they're also Easter eggs to me. And I'll go back and look for
yeah. Or you could just like text Emerald and be like, "Hey, what did I miss, by the way?"
them. Lots, I bet.
Lots. So this is why you need to see the film like several times.
Yeah, definitely. It's 100% a rewatch movie.
Mm. Are you comfortable with rewatching yourself on screen?
No, no, I mean, I'm not sure. I don't quite know. I probably try to avoid it as often as possible. You know,
That's fair. I mean, that is a reaction that a lot of actors have
for now, anyway.
for now, until
Yeah,
you're more comfortable doing it.
yeah. I've become a complete egomaniac and then just all my films at once.
That is quite the movie night at your house. Wow. Now the film's been out for a month and in lots of different territories, obviously in Australia, US, all around the world, and people have been able to watch it and discuss it, and it is a very discussion-worthy movie. Do you think your own personal relationship to the movie has changed or developed? I know you said earlier that you try to avoid a lot of it, but I think, sometimes just knowing something is out there and maybe picking up a little bit about what people are saying has given you a new perspective on the movie.
Um, I think it's probably just made me love the movie more, seeing the kind of places that it can go and um, running into people that have seen it and things like that. That's definitely a change, but I think it just makes me love it more.
Yeah. I mean, there's always a bit of distance between when you're filming, when you're in production versus when it finally comes out. Is it a relief?
When the film comes out.
Yeah.
I mean, for me personally, the experience is in making the picture. So I think I've said picture 500,000 times now. I had an English teacher named Father Gillen when I was in high school, and he wouldn't let us say movie. He would make us say film or picture. So now I sound like a twit. What was the question again? Sorry.
Whether or not, like your own perspective on picture changes once it's out there, and whether or not it's a bit, kind of a relief that it's out there and everyone can see it when you have to wait so long.
No, I think once I wrap the movie, it's sort of done for me. I wrap it up and put it away and keep that moment sacred to myself. So no, it's not a great change. I'm very glad that we can share it with people and that people can then take from it what they will and build their own world from it. But for me, it kind of I like. I think it's healthier to sort of leave the movie when you leave the movie. It
Do you ever
doesn't
go back?
living for me.
Do you ever go back in and sort of revisit that little memory box?
Yeah, all the time, all the time. Yeah, it was a wonderful summer.
Um, I mean, artists often reevaluate their own work after a number of years. I mean, and I know you're kind of like in the moment of it, and it's hard to have that perspective. But how do you think Saltburn will stack up for you in 5 or 10 or 20 years? Do you think you'll look back and see this as sort of a defining project in your career?
I mean, I'm certain I'll love it for a very, very long time. It'll always be special. Yeah.
And I mean, it's also, I think it marks, and Priscilla as well, and just a bunch of things that you're doing right now, it marks sort of this moment where you're getting lead roles in very high profile projects, working with incredibly talented filmmakers who have massive bodies of work. I mean, what does it mean to you to be sort of considered and then cast and then getting to play in these projects?
I mean, it means the whole world to me. They let me make movies, Ma. I can't believe it. I still can't believe it. Every night I go to bed and, I'm like, no way. um, yeah, I'm sort of pinching myself at the moment. I don't have any time or space for retrospective or anything, retrospect or anything like that. I'm really just kind of in it and just incredibly grateful that it's happening and that I get to play a part in this thing that I love so much.
And if you could go back and tell your 19-year-old self living in your car for a couple of weeks in LA and say, in 8 years' time, you're going to be doing all of this stuff, do you think he would believe it?
I think he would have said 8 years is too long. We would have been serious. But no, I don't think so. No.
I don't think I'll ever go home again.
I think it was a hit, don't you, darling?
Oh, yes, a triumph.